Next topic. Let's talk a little bit about PlayStation VR2. And I'd like to get both of your takes on VR in general, and also specifically this new iteration for PlayStation. So Jamie, you go first, pal.
Me and VR don't have the best history. For me, VR has long been an experience more than gaming. So from the elements I've tried, now I don't have a VR rig myself.
Sure.
One of the main reasons is that my legs aren't great. I do my gaming sitting down, so there's a lot of things that I wouldn't be able to put lengthy sessions. It was the same with the Kinect and all that sort of stuff back in the day. There was only so much use I could get out of it. But yeah, I just have found, generally speaking, with VR that there's stuff that I've tried and it's been very interesting and it's been a good diversion. But I feel personally the same way I do about mobile gaming with it, is that it's something to do for a bit, but it's not really the same experience for me as sitting down at my PC or at my console and just diving headfirst into a game. So obviously that's very much a personal take. Obviously, I know there's some people who play as much as possible in VR, and it means that they're more immersed, which I get as well. I'm glad that that's there. But as for this, Jesus, that's expensive. And I don't think the money's worth is there. Again, personally, because I don't think the tech has caught up with the vision yet. We as gamers, we want VR. I mean, I'm talking like VR troopers, like the era. Like, we want VR that we pull the mask on and we are actually in the world, where you stand in a wee bowl so that your steps actually count everywhere you walk. Full haptic suit. Like, we want the
Ready Player One experience.
Yeah,
right? That's what you want.
Absolutely. And we're not getting it. Like, we're not getting it. It's not there yet. And there are versions, like there are haptic suits and the rest of that are coming out, like, and being tested and stuff. And I don't know that any are on the market yet. And even if they are, ridiculous price point, I have no doubt. And you have to have a dedicated room for VR. So it's a very luxury, very privileged item, and I don't think that, for me personally, the tech is anywhere near the vision of what it would have to be for me to drop money on it.
You're right. I mean, just to clarify for our viewers or listeners, the price point is in dollars, so translate accordingly. It's $550 is what the standard package will set you back, and that is the headset, 2 PSVR2 Sense controllers, stereo headphones, and I guess your cables that you'll need for it as well. And if you want to get the bundle, which is the Horizon Call of the Mountain game, which looked super awesome when they unveiled that little kind of teaser trailer, that's obviously going to add on another $50 onto it. So it's a $600 bundle. The console is only $400 or $450. So you're more than buying a new system for this. And this is a tricky one for myself because, had I the money, I would have loved to get this, but I certainly cannot justify that kind of price point. But, and I was reading some things on this, like, if you are very much into VR, especially on the PC side, where you've got things like the HTC Vive, the Valve Index, the Oculus, which is now rebranded the Meta Quest, this is actually very, very good value, because the Valve Index and the MetaQuest Pro, anyway, they're like $800 to over $1,000 for that really high-end premium VR experience. And then you've got the MetaQuest 2, and I believe the 3 is coming out soon, which is coming in at about $300, $400. But you're not getting the same visual fidelity of potentially the PSVR 2 or the Valve Index or the Pro Quest headset, which is on the market just now as well. But that's more of the Quest Pro is more of a business VR solution. It's not really for games as such. It's for actual, if you're an architect's firm or construction company, or if you're in the medical field or things like that, you'd use it and create applications and training and experiences that way. It's not really a gaming peripheral. But what really is a bit of a nail in the coffin for this going forward, unfortunately, I feel that when PSVR 1 launched, it was really competitively priced. It was seen as a entry point into VR, because at the point the Valve Index was yet to come out, but the HTC Vive was the big one, the big expensive one, the full all singing, all dancing, walk around your space. You get the LED kind of things that spit a laser gun out and scan your room so you know where everything is, and all crazy levels of VR immersion. Whereas PSVR was, okay, sit down on your sofa and you're getting a VR experience. And there's some games like Drive Club VR, Batman VR, and that kind of thing. And I thought that's actually a really, really smart of PlayStation to bring it in about £300, which at the time was under the cost of the console. And it's a gateway into a VR experience, an additive rather than an essential, still a luxury item. But for this one, it feels like they've had to price it to shoot itself in the foot, and it's going to be really, really hard to justify. Because I was looking at the games and there's no killer app that I'm seeing from the list. Potentially, maybe there is one of those games, those launch game lineups, what we'll get into in a little second as to what they are. But it doesn't seem, there's no Half-Life Alyx equivalent of game for this. Maybe that turns out to be Call of the Mountain, the Horizon spin-off game. We don't know yet because there's not really been any gameplay shown for that. But there's a lot of things that are going against this bundle because of the Quest 2 and soon the Quest 3, which is a fully wireless, fully contained VR experience. Because it doesn't have the high graphical fidelity of the other more expensive things, people are okay with that because they have a completely untethered experience. You download the games or install the games directly onto the onboard storage of the headset, which comes in like 64 up to, I think, 512 gig. Maybe it's 256 gig. I'll need to double check that. But you are fully wireless, and that is the goal. And I was hoping that PSVR 2, when it was getting rumored about, they would take their learnings from the very first iteration of PSVR and then they'd make it a wireless solution, or at least an option to go wireless, to go wired if you need extra graphical fidelity, kind of like what the Quest does, because you can use that on any PC, power notwithstanding, of course, from your PC, and then you can tether it, and then you've got the extra graphical fidelity for really, I guess, high-end experiences. Or you can just play Beat Saber, smash your coffee table, smash your lampshades, and have fun fully wireless in your living room. And a lot of people, that's what they're happy with. They're quite content with that. And it just feels like this is, they've got a few things wrong is what it feels like. It's because it's fully wired and it's really expensive for the console market. Remember, this is not a PC market. This is a console market. Console gamers want simplicity. They want easy point of entry for a lot of their experiences. And it just feels like this is, I hope it's not, but it does feel like it's going to be a bit dead on arrival, unfortunately. But I really hope that's not the case because I'm a big fan of VR and getting new immersive experiences. I mean, a couple of episodes ago, Sarah, you talked a little bit about just how cool the haptics were in a Plague Tale. Getting the feeling of the rats like inside the controller in your hands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then VR is just an extension of what haptics could be to fully immerse you. And it just feels like, well, they've put a massive barrier to entry on this when it could have been a gateway into VR and more exciting experiences.
Yeah. My experience with VR is kind of varied, I suppose. Like, I would say the primary like experience I have is going into like specific arcades that have VR as like an option to go and do, and there are quite a few of them like across London where you can pay whatever the hourly rate is to go in and you play whatever games they have, and it's great when you kind of have like a full rig that you get into. So you have your set and you have like a backpack, and it's a little bit more you can sort of move around in the space, and it's quite cool. Like, that feels like I don't know how that would even be possible to make that happen in my home, sort of thing. So I'm very happy for it to kind of be a thing that I go and do as like an an event or like an arcade style thing where I'm like, cool, let's make a day of it. Let's like book 3 hours in the VR studio and go play. Whereas like having it at home, I think there's always going to be limitations to how much you can do unless you, and again, like we're talking about how privileged you would have to be in order to A, afford this in the first place, but B, have a room or a setup somewhere that is capable of what we want and expect from VR. So I think that is a long way away, certainly for the general public. Yeah, I think maybe looking at it from a perspective of this is its own console rather than it being, because I think it was kind of pitched as almost like a peripheral or something that comes alongside having a console. But if it is almost a console in and of itself, maybe it's slightly easier to swallow the price point. Not to say that I don't think the price point is great anyway, and I definitely can't afford to do it, and I would absolutely get it if I could, mainly because I love the Horizon series and I really want to play this VR version that they're putting out. But yeah, I was looking at some of the other titles and nothing in particular grabs me. Maybe Jurassic World, maybe Tentacular. That sounds quite cute. But if there are any, maybe there's some other like fun things that they haven't announced yet that are going to come along with the launch. Like I don't know if these are the only launch titles. Like maybe they're keeping some close to their chest or something like that.
I hope there is, because out of that list, the Horizons game is not actually listed there. So I don't know if that's coming later or if it's going to be a launch title.
Good point.
You know, so like I know there's a Walking Dead VR game which is apparently very, very good, and I guess that's going to be coming to it. And the PSVR1 game Moss was really critically acclaimed for that experience. I know Moss 2 is going to be coming to it as well. But just to run through the actual launch games, is After the Fall is a post-apocalyptic co-op shooter by the studio behind Arizona Sunshine, a game I'm not familiar with. Cities VR Enhanced Edition, that sounds really quite cool, because if you're a big city builder fan, that's going to be an improved version of the VR edition of Cities Skylines. So that sounds like it could be really quite cool, and it makes me think a little bit of the old Populous and SimCity games where it's, or like Black and White or things like that, where you are the god type character and then you're controlling and building your city. That kind of thing in VR could be really interesting if you can be actually in the world that you're building rather than kind of detached from it. Sounds really quite cool. Cosmonius High, restore an alien high school in this wacky adventure title from the makers of Job Simulator. That could be really fun. Crossfire Sierra Squad is a new VR first-person shooter from the Crossfire franchise. Again, interesting. Dark Pictures.
I'm super psyched for this, though.
Roller coaster VR horror. So that will be the same from Supermassive Games. So they did Until Dawn, that VR title as well, didn't they? It was like a roller coaster on rails kind of shooter horror thing.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of it. Something Blood or...
Yeah, I know the one you mean.
I can't remember the name of it
It's
now.
great.
Yeah.
It's terrifying and it's great. Yeah.
There's a Hello Neighbor coming. Obviously, Jurassic World Aftermath Collection. An enhanced bundle of parts 1 and 2 of the Jurassic Park survival action game. That sounds interesting. Again, had they brought a VR edition of the Evolution series, which is the park builder, that would have been pretty awesome. If you could go into VR and be in the park, or then the kind of the godlike view of the park builder, that could have been super interesting as well. Maybe they are thinking about VR for the next Jurassic World Evolution series. The Light Brigade is a rogue-like first-person shooter with procedurally generated levels. Pistol Whip sounds pretty cool as well. I had a little look at the trailer of this, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of Superhot and that kind of thing, that kind of style of game.
That game.
I know. You mentioned Tentacular, which is a physics-based puzzle game. I'm always for physics-based puzzle games. You guys know that. And Zenith the Last City, a VR MMO, which there's no real information about that. But again, they're not really listing the big bangers there. It's like, this is the reason. This isn't a God of War in VR where you're Kratos, you're in first person, you're throwing the blades of chaos or you're throwing the axe in first person. There's nothing like that. There's
I would
no
sell
mention.
a kidney for that.
It could be really cool. But I guess maybe those experiences are coming, but there's nothing to say you need to play this game. You need to buy a Valve Index and play Half-Life Alyx because it will change the VR game entirely. There's nothing like that. And the other thing going against it, of course, is that it's not backward compatible with the previous PlayStation VR games, which I think is a colossal kick in the nuts to any early adopter that was supporting PlayStation's VR endeavor to say, okay, you need to buy a brand new headset. Oh, by the way, you have to, none of those games that you bought on the last VR headset are going to work. So you're going to have to buy either like a new PS5 version of all of those VR games that you had in the past. That's even if the developers are going to make a version for PSVR2, or you're just going to have to take out of storage your old crappy PSVR1 and play those games that way. I mean, so many things going against it. It feels a bit catastrophic for the market right now, for the economy right now, to say, yeah, you're going to have to buy everything again. And this is more than the cost of a PlayStation 5, which you need to use this thing. It's not self-contained like a Quest. You need a PlayStation 5 and you need to buy this. So that's nearly £1,000, $1,000 for a PS5 and a VR headset. Ouch! Ouch.
It almost feels, and I'm not saying this is what they've done necessarily, but it almost feels as though they feel like they've backed themselves into a corner. It's like, oh, we made VR, and quite a few people liked it, and we've made a new console. Shit, we need a new VR setup, and which they've now done, but they're like, wow, that cost us a lot of money to make, and we haven't really got anything for. Oh fuck, we didn't put any of the old stuff on it. Oh, we've lost a lot of. Right, okay, just bash it out there as expensive as you possibly can. Let's see if we can reclaim some money from YouTubers, because they'll buy it, because they'll have to. Like it, I don't know. The whole thing just feels like a massive L from start to finish. Like, it's just no. And I was thinking about when you were listing off the games there. Like there are some games like Phasmophobia I would kill to play VR. And really need to. I know that Al has a VR rig of some description and has long wanted to ship it over to me so that I can, just because he wants to watch me play it. Which I said to him is wrong, because if anyone needs to play it in VR, it's him, and I want to watch him play it because he will actually defecate. But still,
and the streams that he would do as well.
Oh, it was. I mean, one of the first times we played Phasmophobia together, he screamed so loud that his RTX audio filtering no longer recognized him as a human, and he had to reset his PC to get his voice back because it filtered him. So that was amazing. So, but yeah, Phasmophobia VR. I would love to, like, Minecraft in VR. I've been playing a lot of Minecraft lately. I'm back on digging tunnels, and just sitting there with that theoretically is great fun. But even when I think of those experiences,
choices, yeah,
I'm still sat down. So essentially, what I'm doing is strapping a monitor to my face, and just doesn't. I don't feel, again, absolutely personal to me. I don't, and I'm losing my voice about it. I don't feel that it would necessarily add a ton to my immersion just to have it wrapped around. Like some, obviously, it's going to, but I don't feel it's enough of an experience enhancer for me to think, oh, I'll drop a few £100 on a headset so that I can do that. It's just not there. Although, definitely with the idea of it completely wireless and the games on it, you know, it's akin then to having a Switch or a DS or something that you can play anywhere around the house or even take with you, although that's fraught with peril. See people playing it on the bus and getting robbed. No.
Smacking the lady next to you.
Yeah, plus you put it on and you sit there playing your game very carefully, then you take it off and you find that someone's had your wallet and your shoes and your trousers away. I don't know if it's necessarily the best idea, but
full body haptics there, Jamie. Full body haptics. Yeah.
Oh, the monsters are taking my. No, wait a minute. Oh no!
This
and
is
I'm
realistic.
in France again. I've wandered onto a ferry, so yeah, it could go badly wrong. But
I know. But yeah, I mean, obviously we're not terribly positive about it, but I just wish it was a bit more of a success story for VR rather than all of these negative things going against it.
Mm.
And it just seems like, yeah, I mean, we've obviously covered what we're going to be covering about it, and don't want to labor too long on it. But I just wish they had thought it through a bit more sensibly for the current market where we are just now, and the realistic number of units that they're going to be able to shift at that price point, whilst not being fully wireless, whilst not being backward compatible, whilst not this, not this, not this, not this, and it just seems like there's a lot of negatives in that column rather than the positives that are going to make people I must have this as the perfect gaming companion for my PlayStation 5, which I still can't buy yet unless I'm going to be paying scalper prices of £700-800. But that's unfortunately the state of where we are just now.